Good evening and welcome to Profiles. On tonight's show, we have with us Gabrielle Gache. Gabrielle is the founder of Power of Words, which is a management leadership training company that operates both in Gibraltar and in Malta and the Channel Islands. Thank you for coming on the show, Gabrielle.
Thank you.
And for coming in to talk to us a little bit about what Power of Words does and how you started out, because your family's all from Gibraltar, but you have a cut glass crystal accent from the UK.
Well practiced.
So tell us a little bit about your background, first of all.
So my background is my parents are both Gibraltarian, Gache and also Imossi, and all of my grandparents lived here, my aunts, uncles, cousins, all Gibraltarian. So as a child, I would come here every Christmas, every Easter, every long summer. It was wonderful. But I was always the English girl. Always the English girl. The giddy. And what was really interesting is at home we had like a mini Gibraltar because there were so many Gibraltarians in Kingston where I grew up. And so we used to socialise with a lot of people who lived in Kingston, who I now see walking the streets of Gibraltar, and it was home from home. So I never really fitted in England because I was always the foreigner. Yeah. But I didn't really fit in here either because I was the English girl. So it was quite an interesting time growing up.
And then, of course, with visiting backwards and forwards for family and so on, you also now visit backwards and forwards for work, don't you?
Absolutely. Well, I had kind of fell out of love with Gibraltar in my late teens. Love got me, life got me. And it was only as I became a mother and really wanted to introduce my children and let them enjoy the richness of Gibraltar, because there is so much to offer over here, that we would come back for weddings and see the family. And so I've fallen back in love, but as an adult rather than as a child.
Yeah, and it is wonderful for children. I mean, the summer holidays here are endless.
They love
on
it.
The beach.
Absolutely.
And it was actually when you were on the beach that you had inspiration to bring your company over to Gib, wasn't that right?
Absolutely, yes. So in 1999, 16 years ago, I set up Power of Words in the UK, and we were over for my cousin's wedding. And the kids were playing on the beach, and I include my husband as one of the kids because he loves playing with the kids, as they were. And they were building sandcastles and having loads of fun. And I just thought, I want to come over more often. New company, didn't have a lot of money in those days, so I thought, how can I do this? And I thought there must be opportunities over here in Gib to do what I'm doing back in the UK. So the next day, I said to my husband, can you look after the kids? And I came into Gibraltar and I started knocking on doors to find out how people develop and how companies develop their people. And there were no training companies here in Gib. People were having to cart all of their sales teams over to the UK, pay for the flights, the accommodation, for the quality of training that I was doing in the UK. And I just thought, there's got to be a simpler way. So I started to come over here, and that was the beginning.
And for those that don't obviously come from the kind of corporate world and corporate background, explain a little bit about what management leadership training means. I mean, in layman's terms, because obviously it's quite a kind of a corporate speak to a certain extent,
absolutely,
isn't it? And
yes.
Lots of people watching this evening will probably want to know, well, exactly what does that entail? And it's quite a human element to a corporate world, isn't it?
Incredibly so. It's very interesting because people talk about the management or the leaders, and very often there's the bosses, and there's very often a blame, you know, they should know better. But actually they are people, and the management are just a group of people finding their way and doing the best they can with the resources that they've got. And most people, not all people, but many people, certainly back in the 80s and the 90s, kind of fell into management without much training. The training was on-the-job training. So over the years, we've learnt more and more about what works, and there's a lot of science behind what works and how we work as human beings and how we communicate as human beings with ourselves as well as with each other, with psychometrics, with psychology, with all sorts of different things, and also the neurology of how our brains work. So we're able to put that into day-to-day, what does that mean? And it could be something as simple as learning to breathe. It could be something as simple as using a different word, using and instead of but when you're communicating, so that you work with the person rather than butt them out of the way, if you want to make someone feel that you're actually listening to what they're saying. And so Power of Words was just, it was a 3 o'clock eureka moment when I came up with the company name. 18 months of, what am I going to call myself? What am I going to call myself? What am I going to call myself? And it just came to me because the power we put into words is only the power that we put in. Words have no meaning apart from the meaning that we give them. And one word can mean one thing for you and one thing for someone else. And in management, in the corporate world, that's often where things break down, because they believe that to be successful means to earn more money, to be more profitable. But for the other person, to be more successful means to actually finish on time, to not have to think about work when you go home. So success, you know, words, very, very different meanings.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you touched on that, using the and the but and so on. One of my personal pet hates is when people start a sentence with no. I can't bear it, because it's such a hostile thing to say. And again, they probably don't mean to be hostile, but I take it, you're starting a sentence with no.
And actually it's part of the bilingualness of Gibraltar. It's something that you hear a lot. No pero, no pero, no but, you know, the two no's. And when my son was learning to speak, he would start every sentence with no but. Do you want some chocolate on your toast? No, but I want some chocolate. So it's a yes. And we kind of coached him out of that, and then he became a teenager and he started again and we coached him out of it again. But it is interesting how we fall into habits, and some of those habits serve us and some of those habits do not serve us.
And of course then applying those things, it's like you said, it's very human. Our human reactions to things then has such a massive impact in terms of the workforce and what you do now with the company. So you work for companies helping individual members within their teams, or particularly with the managers of those teams?
So as a company, we work at all levels. What we tend to do is go in more often than not at the senior level, and we might work with the board directors or senior leaders on a one-to-one basis, but also bringing them together to find out what is their mission, what is their vision, what is their strategic plan moving forward. Because rather than just going day by day and then saying, oh, OK, we're here, it's having a plan, having a mission, creating a culture that they want to create. And then from that spills out where the lack is, so that we can work with the next level to ensure that they've got the skill set in there. And sometimes we'll bring in or recommend other companies to come in, because we, you know, HR, for example, is not something that we do, but we know many HR folk and we can direct people and companies to those people. So it works really, really well.
And I presume also from the managers, when they want to achieve, like you said, finding whatever means success for them, achieving that next bit. Do you have any examples where you've been able to sort of help somebody break through to the next level when they've been stuck?
So many.
Anything you can share discreetly?
Well, to give you an example, one of the things that we do are assessment centres. So we actually worked with one of the utility companies. We work with many, but we worked with a particular utility company and brought in, through psychometric testing and assessments, the right guy for the job. And he came into the job, so I've given it away that it was a he. He came into the job and he grew, because he needed to grow, because he was at a lower level before. So he really had to kind of take on board a new way of thinking. And we helped him through that and supported him through that. And at senior level, generally you're not there for very long if you're working, certainly in the UK, the average time at a CEO role or senior level is about 18 months to 3 years. So that it's kind of going in, creating a legacy and then having an exit strategy. And we've been able to do that for this guy, and he's now onto his 3rd company. But all the time he's growing and thinking, where am I aiming? What is it that I'm working towards? Because he wants to retire by the time he's 50.
Yeah.
So it's how can he get there with his skill set in a way that's going to serve him. And the way it serves him wouldn't serve me, wouldn't necessarily serve you. But that's the beauty of the work that we do, is that we're working with individual companies and individuals within that company.
And then, of course, you can help them to achieve what they want to achieve.
Absolutely.
We're going to cut to a break now, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about women in the workplace too.
Fantastic.
So it would be a good topic. Join us after the break on Profiles.